This is the CBS Evening News with Dan
Look for the hat in the western sky.
Go west.
Arby's. It's better out here.
Hey, we know you're busy and can't worry about the best time to buy a car, but here's a clue. The Jeep and Eagle clearance, on now, and featuring big savings on Jeep Grand Cherokees. Plus, great deals on Eagle Visions. And we're not shouting, but it's hard to beat the price on a 94 Eagle Talon. And this summit's looking...
This is the CBS Evening News with Dan Rather and Connie Chung.
And this is Bob Schieffer reporting tonight. Dan and Connie are off. With people dying by the thousands, President Clinton today ordered an all-out, round-the-clock relief effort for the refugees from Rwanda. The U.S. military will try to deliver water, food, and medicine to millions of sick and hungry Rwandans camped out now in Zaire. We start with our national security correspondent, David Martin, who has the latest from the Pentagon.
President Clinton today threw the American military into the midst of what he called the worst humanitarian crisis in a generation.
Today I have ordered an immediate, massive increase in our efforts in the region. I've ordered the Defense Department to establish and manage an airlift hub in Uganda, which will be used as a staging area for around-the-clock operations.
Food and medicine will be flown out of Europe into Uganda, and from there trucked, airlifted, or parachuted to the refugee camps in Zaire.
It is, in fact, a race against time, and there's no luxury to be sitting on our hands, and we don't intend to do that.
The most critical need is clean drinking water. Without it, cholera will continue to spread through the camps.
One of the problems here is that perhaps the most urgent piece of this, which is the water supply, is also the most difficult and time-consuming technically to accomplish.
We are essentially talking about producing here a water system for at least 1.2 million people.
1,500 U.S. servicemen and women will be in the first wave of air traffic controllers, runway repair crews, and cargo handlers sent in to create order where now there is chaos.
They're probably the only people that could carry this off, given the dimensions of the problem.
Within a month, an estimated 4,000 U.S. military personnel will be in Africa, including combat troops to provide security.
There's always the possibility of violence breaking out. I think it would be wrong to assume that it is without any danger.
But the greatest danger is death from disease, and aid workers say the rescue operation is too little, too late.
It's definitely late, and it's gotten bigger, but I think it's, yes, still too little given the vast scale and the acute nature of the emergency.
U.S. airdrops of relief supplies will begin this weekend, but the only real solution lies in convincing the refugees it is safe to return home. David Martin, CBS News, the Pentagon.
Well, the United States and the world are finally gearing up to try to salvage the mass of humanity that's huddled in Zaire. Huge obstacles are looming. The airport and the roads are inadequate, and the political situation is still unstable, to say the least. CBS News correspondent Bob Arnott is on the scene and has our report now from along the border of Rwanda and Zaire.
In the Muniki refugee camp today, aid workers stopped counting the bodies. The number of those dying from cholera are said to have risen past the catastrophic level. New supplies delivered today can't possibly keep up with the mounting casualties.
Okay, you take 3, I'll take the small one, okay?
Sometimes the medical workers were too late.
This one needs, come, 2.
This baby was reached just in time.
This one, infusion. Serious, eh?
The workers say small victories keep them going.
You have to keep in mind that a few you save, of course, and that keeps you going.
For the refugees, the fear of cholera is now greater than the violence that drove them out. At the border today, Zairean troops were busy disposing of discarded weapons that blocked the road to Rwanda. Meanwhile, just down the road, a high-level meeting between the United Nations High Commission for Refugees and members of the Rwanda Patriotic Front.
The role of the UN is to create the condition to facilitate the safe return of these people.
The UN later announced it will encourage refugees to return to Rwanda. But just how safe will it be? Our CBS News crew was escorted into Rwanda and given a haunting look at the country left behind. Passing the entrance to the former presidential mansion and its spectacular view of Lake Kivu, we found people bathing on the beach. But it was a far different scene just miles away. This used to be a military barracks. Now it's nothing but rubble. This used to be the center of the town of Gisenyi. Now it's hard to imagine anyone living here just 2 short weeks ago. With hundreds of thousands of refugees packed tightly together in Zaire, this part of Rwanda is almost completely empty, except for RPF soldiers and a few lone refugees. Some refugees who did try to cross the border today were beaten back by Zairean border guards. A small group did manage to sneak across the border into Rwanda. They said they were glad to be home. How are the soldiers treating you?
Here? Very well.
Really?
Very good guys.
But with each passing day, the number of refugees who won't make it home is growing. The mass graves outside Goma are filling up as fast as they are dug. And there is another threat tonight. Thick smoke and lava are spewing out of Nyiragongo volcano, just 6 miles away. There is growing fear tonight that it may erupt. Now faced with the possibility of a looming natural disaster and a fast-spreading cholera epidemic, the new promises of massive international relief again raise questions of why it has taken so long for the rest of the world to react. Dr. Bob Arnott, CBS News, Goma, Zaire.
And coming up next on the CBS Evening News, much more to report tonight, including an addition to the defense team as O.J. Simpson returns to court, and hanging over the entire case, the possibility of the death penalty. O.J. Simpson was back in court today for the first time since a judge ordered him to stand trial for 2 brutal murders. The formal charges against him were read. Then he entered his plea. Correspondent Bill Whitaker has our report.
Defense attorneys pushed their way through a courthouse gauntlet when they arrived this morning for O.J. Simpson's arraignment.
Matter of People versus Orenthal, James Simpson.
In the hushed courtroom, supervising Judge Cecil Mills read the charges that O.J. Simpson, with malice aforethought, murdered both his ex-wife, Nicole Brown Simpson, and her friend, Ronald Goldman. Simpson's response was forceful and unusual.
How do you plead to counts 1 and 2?
Absolutely 100% not guilty.
And do you?
With the not guilty plea, Judge Mills assigned the case to Assistant Supervising Judge Lance Ito for trial. Both defense and prosecution welcomed Ito, a former prosecutor well regarded as smart, tough, and fair. Ito won high marks for his handling of the Lincoln Savings and Loan swindle case. Judge Ito recently said a judge would have to be crazy to want the O.J. Simpson case because of the amount of public scrutiny.
Every decision you make will be scrutinized by a lot of experts who will then comment, and some will disagree with what the judge did. The judge will have to have
thick skin and not be affected by that.
There was another new name and face presented today. Noted attorney Johnny Cochran has joined the defense team. Cochran, a successful attorney, is best known for representing Michael Jackson against child molestation charges. And in this case, with racial overtones, Cochran, the first African American on the team, is seasoned in handling sensitive racial issues. His courtroom skills viewed as a boost to the defense.
It's going to be part of the team and participate equally with everybody else.
And CBS News has learned the defense team is negotiating with top jury consultant Joellen Demetrius, who has helped pick jurors for the winning side in the Rodney King, Reginald Denny, and McMartin preschool cases.
Well, the prosecution has its work cut out for them. They are facing perhaps the toughest team ever assembled by a defendant.
Prosecutors weren't talking today. Now the defense must decide whether to put O.J. Simpson on the stand, how to attack the credibility of the detective who found the bloody glove, and how to present a credible explanation that someone other than O.J. Simpson committed murder. One apparent strategy attacked the prosecution's evidence. Today, the defense filed a motion asking for the second time for crime scene blood samples for its own tests. Shapiro says he fears the samples will be completely used up in prosecution tests at this Maryland lab. Prosecutors called the defense motion groundless. Judge Ito will decide. After court, O.J. Simpson returned to jail, where in coming months he'll be meeting daily with his expanded legal team, plotting out his case. Bill Whitaker, CBS News, Los Angeles.
No trial date was set today, but the defense has requested that the trial start within 60 days. Simpson charged with what is called a special circumstance murder, which means that if convicted, he could face the death penalty. We have more about that now from correspondent John Blackstone.
With O.J. Simpson now headed toward an early trial, the district attorney must soon make a crucial decision. Should California's gas chamber become part of the equation?
I think the DA needs to ask for the death penalty. I sure do.
I could never vote for death for him or anyone else.
A brutal double murder is the kind of crime that can often lead to death row. But would a jury ever agree to execute this defendant?
Because he's O.J., he won't go to the gas chamber.
But seeking the death penalty could give the prosecution an advantage. In capital punishment cases, only those who agree with the death penalty are seated on the jury.
The problem is that you get people who are more likely to convict somebody. It's really that simple.
If Simpson does not face the death penalty, some will say it's because of his celebrity. If he does, some fear it will be because of his race.
Death row lines are filled with African American men throughout California and throughout America.
Less than 7.5% of California's population is African American, but the percentage of blacks on death row is 5 times greater. There are almost 400 condemned on California's death row here at San Quentin Prison. They are what prosecutors call the worst of the worst, though the guidelines for deciding who qualifies for the death penalty are less than precise. They include the defendant's history and background, any previous felony convictions. Simpson has none. Evidence of emotional or mental distress may be considered as reasons not to impose the death penalty. The murder of a spouse often fits this category. But these broad guidelines leave plenty of room for discretion. The decision will be made by a committee in the Los Angeles DA's office, whose members, 8 white men, know their judgment will be watched more closely than ever this time.
You cannot treat each and every individual as if they all come in under the same category of being a murderer.
The public really hasn't had to grapple with the fact that everybody on whom the death penalty is imposed is a human being, a real person.
While Californians overwhelmingly support the death penalty, attitudes appear to be changing when the defendant is O.J. Simpson. John Blackstone, CBS News, San Quentin.
A long tradition may soon fall at the Citadel, South Carolina's all-male military college. A federal judge today ordered the state school to admit Shannon Faulkner for full-fledged military training as the first woman cadet. She's already been attending classes. The Citadel has admitted only men since it was founded more than 150 years ago. The school says it will appeal today's decision. Former Senator Hugh Scott of Pennsylvania, who was the minority leader during the Watergate crisis, has died at the age of 93. He served in Congress for 34 years. At the height of Watergate in August 1974, Scott, along with other Republican leaders, went to the White House and told President Nixon his position was hopeless. Stay with us now for more of the CBS Evening News, including the First Lady barnstorming for health care as her plan gets thrown out. Congressional Democrats decided last night that the president's health care proposal will have to be rewritten if there's any chance of passing it, a conclusion the president now says he reached weeks ago. Meantime, health care advocates hit the road out west today, launching a series of bus caravans that will eventually wind up in Washington, the idea being to build support on the way for reform legislation. The first caravan began forming up today in Portland, Oregon, with considerable fanfare, folk singers, labor leaders, and a long list of boosters headed by the president's wife.
You as an American should be entitled to health care as a right, and that is what we are fighting for.
It was strong talk, but the question now is what plan the administration is promoting. Just hours before all this was taking place, the president was told by congressional leaders they simply could not muster the votes to pass his plan. And if he still wanted to provide health coverage for all Americans, it would have to be phased in much more slowly than he had promised.
We told the president that we're going to suggest different approaches to achieve the same objectives.
But that was last night. Today, the president said he was the one who decided his plan had to be changed.
Well, I have been saying for 4 weeks, we have agreed to dramatically change this plan. We're going to string it out. We have to have a longer phase-in. We have to have less bureaucracy.
Rhetoric aside, the proposal that seems to be taking shape calls on employers and employees to share the cost of health insurance. Who pays what percentage is still up in the air, with the whole thing being phased in over a period of years. Small businesses would get larger federal subsidies in the beginning to offset some costs, and instead of the huge government purchasing alliances the president had proposed, insurance would be bought directly from private companies. However the plan finally shakes out, the bus caravan got rolling this afternoon, to the cheers of Democrats in Oregon and considerable needling from Republicans there and back in Washington.
I noticed that the First Lady is out in my hometown of Portland today on her bus caravan. I wish she'd leave the driving to Bob Dole and me.
He was joking, of course, but with all the confusion now over what the president really wants and what, if anything, Congress will approve, the real question is, where exactly is this bus headed? More reaction tonight to our recent reality check report about cabinet secretaries and other top government officials employing bodyguards. More than 100 members of the House of Representatives are now calling for a full congressional investigation of what all this is costing taxpayers. Earlier this week, the White House Chief of Staff, Leon Panetta, ordered all cabinet members to tell him what kind of security they have and why they need it. Coming up next on the CBS Evening News, a Japanese new car deal that has the American competition up in arms. Well, time is flying for the 7 Columbia shuttle astronauts. After bad weather scrapped today's scheduled return from space, Columbia broke the shuttle endurance record of 14 days, 12 and a half minutes. Columbia is now scheduled back on Earth from its scientific mission tomorrow morning. In western Mexico, several villages were evacuated today when a volcano erupted. It spewed rocks and lava down a mountainside and sent a cloud of smoke into the sky. 500 people were driven from their homes, but no one was hurt. It is the first eruption of the Colima volcano since 1941. Speaking of hot, here in the United States, one of the hottest cars around these days is a Japanese import, the Nissan Maxima. Dealers just can't keep it in stock, and the big attraction is a sticker price that has Detroit's Big Three crying foul. CBS News economics correspondent Ray Brady has our report.
It sounds too good to be true. The price of a snappy 1995 Nissan Maxima down 10% from last year to around $22,000.
In the month of June, we sold 76, which was the most on Long Island. As they were coming in, they were going right out.
That has U.S. car makers steaming, with Ford accusing the Japanese of violating trade laws.
This particular car has been being sold at a lower price in this country than in Japan.
If true, that's what's called dumping. Figures compiled by U.S. car makers show that over the last 2 years, the comparable wholesale value of the Maxima was around $5,000 less in this country than in Japan. Not only that, with the yen going up against the dollar, critics say, Japanese products should be going up, not down.
If that's the case, it's very hard to see how they can be dropping the price by 10% while the yen is rising by 20%.
Nissan would not comment on camera, but says Nissan is not dumping. Marketing, design, and manufacturing factors have combined to allow Nissan to price the new Maxima beneath the previous generation.
It is true that Nissan has taken some content out of the car. It is also true that they've added content to the car.
Still, don't lower prices help Americans who buy the Maxima?
Most people walk through the door sticker shock the best way, and that means that it isn't a car that's overpriced.
But, says Ford, if cars are being dumped, then it would keep workers busy in Japanese factories, but there could be a price to pay here.
What this means, critics say, is that Japan is exporting unemployment, keeping its own factories busy while causing potential layoffs among American industries like cars that compete against Japan. Ray Brady, CBS News, New York.
Federal Reserve Chairman Alan Greenspan tried today to reassure financial markets that are worried about the beating the dollar's been taking. He said that the Fed is working closely with the Clinton administration to defend the U.S. currency. He did not say whether the defense might include raising interest rates. On Wall Street today, the Dow Industrials gained about 3 points in heavy trading. Well, with the O.J. Simpson case heading for trial, there's been a lot of talk about money and the law, about using wealth to tip the scales of justice. The same issue is coming up in connection with a civil case in Great Britain. In London's Royal Court, a big American corporation is trying to throw the book at a couple of protesters who say they don't have the money to even afford a lawyer. CBS News correspondent Scott Pelley has our report.
In the highest hallowed halls of English justice, an American institution is on trial. It's called the McLibel case. The $24 billion McDonald's restaurant chain is suing two unemployed vegetarian Britons who passed around a leaflet intended to blow the lid off Big Mac's empire.
They've threatened numerous groups in this country and individuals to silence them because they're desperate not to let the truth about their practices be heard by the general public.
According to them, this is the truth, the pamphlet that incurred the wrath of McDonald's. Under headlines like McMurder and McCancer, it claims that McDonald's is promoting a high-fat diet, tearing down rainforests for cattle ranches, and polluting with its packaging.
Now, in the Royal High Court, McDonald's seeks to make hamburger of its accusers, producing dozens of witnesses and reams of files on everything from heart disease to the little paper wrappers on straws.
The leaflets and the allegations in the leaflet were gaining currency. People were believing them to be true.
If convicted, the Veggie Commandos face fines and court costs of more than $1 million. But still, they refuse to be cowed.
You don't expect to win, do you?
We believe we've won already. We're putting our views over to the public.
The Big Mac trial is expected to last months, and it may be next year before the English High Court decides whether McDonald's has a beef. Scott Pelley, CBS News, London.
And that's the news. I'm Bob Schieffer, CBS News in New York. We'll see you right here tomorrow.